Cheers everyone, and welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be a bit different to the previous ones on this channel. As some of you may know, the SpellForce series had 3 novels published for it by a German author, Uschi Zietsch, but those never ended up being translated into English, which left a lot of non-German fans wondering what even happens in them and how their story fits into the overall universe. For that reason, I've decided to create a series on this channel where I take each chapter, write a synopsis for it in English, and then make a video about it. I don't want to waste more time, but there are a few things I must say before I start. Firstly, this is, as said, a synopsis, meaning that it won't be as detailed as the book itself. However, I will try to include all the important details in it. Secondly, if you're new to the series, there might be some terminology that's unfamiliar to you. That's not an issue. Most things should be explained as I make videos on more and more chapters. Alternatively, depending on when you're watching this, there may be a handful of videos touching upon these terms on my channel, so I'd recommend checking those out for clarification. One thing that longtime fans should keep in mind, the events of this book take place before the events of the Order of Dawn. And thirdly, don't be surprised if some of the names sound a bit weird. I'm saying this because the book was originally written in German. I've given my best to make them sound alright in English, but they could still feel a bit out of place to some. But now, without any further ado, let's start with the prologue of Wind Whisperers, the first book in the series. The story starts with Darada, our main character of the prologue, standing on a balcony in Shaikan, the fortress of the Shaikan. While taking in the sounds of the night around her, suddenly she hears a loud howl and remarks that it could be wolflings, to which a deep voice appears behind her and corrects her, telling her it's not wolflings but actually Lucian, basically a worse version of wolflings. This voice is her father, Darmor's Ironhand, who informs her that the Lucian came to the Iron Fields from La after turf-related conflicts, to which Darada expresses concern about the humans of the Highmark. Darmor reassures her that there's nothing to worry about since no one would dare to attack Shaikan, especially since the Shaikan, even though hated by most, are the best warriors in the world. The narrative continues by talking about how the Shaikan, even though others appreciate their skills in combat, are never seen as friends by any race, and how Shaikan, a fortress built centuries ago, was always their only home. Darmor then asks his daughter why she's out here and not in the Great Hall where Ruorim is waiting for her, the man she's supposed to marry. Darada shows openly that she refuses to marry the Shaikan for she doesn't want to be given away like cattle to him, and remarked that she has enough time to settle down and other plans before that happens. She turns to the sky, looking at the moon while mentioning how Fiara had been torn apart by the senseless wars the 13 Circle Mages are waging between each other. Darada urges her father to think about the future of their race once these wars are done and people won't require their skills anymore. She continues with once again by shifting the story back to Ruorim, saying how he sees her as an object rather than a person, which her father dismisses, telling her that she's most likely wrong about that. Darada asks to be left alone to think. Darmor agrees, but expects an answer in the morning. She's left alone on the balcony, thinking about the war and the plan of bringing the 6 major races together to challenge the Circle, as well as how to explain to her father that she does not wish to get married to Ruorim. The convocation is mentioned, a cataclysmic event which had been found on old runes of the Shapers, and how, on the day of the convocation, it's going to bring discord and disarray onto Io, a day which is only a few decades away at this point. She continued to stand on the balcony, the wind blowing through her hair, while she remembered the time when Ruorim flew into a fit of rage because a servant of his spilled a few drops of wine, fearing that he might do something similar to her. She had to think about the prophecy her friend, Marella, a dragon priestess, gave her a few days ago, which went, "Pay attention to the signs. You will have to make a difficult choice soon. Someone will come and cast a big shadow over our people, and you will be the light and darkness combined. In you, a glowing soul, but not your own, a very, very old one." Darada thought about if Ruorim could be this person and decided to visit him now that her father was asleep so they could talk. She was somewhat scared of going, which made her laugh because she was an excellent swordsman who feared no warrior or mage, but she wasn't sure if she was skilled enough with words to convince Ruorim of her viewpoint without turning him into an enemy of her father. She walked down the stairs and past the Gallery of Whispers, where the ruling family of Shaikan, currently the family of Darmor's Ironhand, lives. The Gallery of Whispers was one of the oldest parts of Shaikan, being created 400 years ago together with the foundation of the fortress. One could hear the whispers of their ancestors and their dragon patriarch while walking through these halls. She stopped in front of Ruorim's room, mustered up courage, and knocked. Ruorim opened the door, and as soon as he saw her, his face took on a new glow, which didn't exactly fill Darada with courage, but it had to be done. They begin to talk, and he is told straight away by Darada that she can't marry him, to which Ruorim shows signs of displeasure. She apologizes for disturbing him this late at night, but insists that it couldn't have waited. Ruorim asks her if it's his fault that she thinks this way. A voice inside Darada screamed yes, but she replied by saying that she doesn't know him too well to answer that question, instead blaming herself for her choice. To continue the talk, Ruorim keeps reassuring her she needn't worry about him controlling her after marriage, which Darada finds hard to believe. She mentions to him that he must have thought the same way towards marrying someone when he was her age, since he decided to wait well into his 30s to make this bond. He agrees and makes her a new proposal. He was to ride out the very next morning to help the house of Halid, who has hired his services, so he suggests Darada to wait with her choice until he returns in 2 months. Darada agreed without hesitation. Before she left, he offered her a glass of wine. Darada was suspicious of it at first, but accepted once Ruorim drank from his. She remarked how she's surprised with how calmly he accepted the news, to which he told her that this isn't the case and he feels very much upset about it, but only due to the fact that he feels the need to have her in his life. Once they finished the wine, she stood up and quickly went back to her room, happy that this had been dealt with. She quickly fell asleep and dove into a dream that felt unique to her. She experienced the sensation of a dream, but in a way she felt like she was there, experiencing its events. She was walking on a path through fog, but didn't feel cold. It appeared as if the fog was moving with her, so she let herself be guided by it. A whisper rang in her ear, "Let yourself go." The fog engulfed her and caressed her. She didn't mind and instead let herself be carried even further by it. It picked her up as she sunk deeper and deeper into her dream. Suddenly, she felt a blood rush and a cold, hot sensation piercing her body until a bright light broke up the dream. Darada let out a scream and fainted. Her friend, Marella, collapsed onto the floor deep below the mountain, unconscious with a horrified look on her face. The following days were filled with autumn foliage and heavy rain. Darada's father barely talked to her, so she had no doubt he had seen through her attempt at buying more time. When the trees surrounding the keep became naked, Damos received an urgent letter. Ruorim announced that he had been delayed on his journey back, much to Darada's delight. They started talking about the letters and its content, eventually getting upset at each other, until Damas commanded her to leave his presence at once. And so, their first longer conversation in days ended with anger. On her way back to her chamber, Darada fainted. She woke up lying on her bed with Marella at her side. Marella explained to her that her son, Snooper, found her and brought her here. Snooper was already a grown child, but he was somewhat mentally set back, behaving like a child and being unable to speak. Marella asked Darada to talk. She mentions the vision she had of Darada, to which Darada replies by clenching her stomach after feeling it turn on itself. She asked Marella if she's sick, but it was in fact quite the contrary. Darada was expecting a child, much to her own disbelief. She sat on her bed, shook, not sure how this could even be possible. As a warrior, Darada didn't want to show any signs of womanhood, which she perceived as a weakness. After a brief discussion, the two came to the conclusion that Ruorim must have impregnated her on the night of his departure. They descended down into the keep where Marella had her laboratory. There, Darada told her all about the weird dream she had in detail. Marella listened while preparing a special concoction in a bowl in front of her. She asked Darada to put forth her left hand. As soon as she did, Marella made a small cut on her finger with a sharp knife and a drop of blood fell into the bowl. The mixture in it exploded and turned into a fine cloud filling the room. She took Darada's hand and they both focused for a while. There was nothing, until Darada saw a faint figure lying on a bed in the distance. She saw herself, but she wasn't alone. Another silhouette was getting closer to her, until it started caressing her in her sleep. She had seen enough. Darada let go of Marella's arms and knocked over the bowl. She was fuming with rage, cursing Ruorim for what he had done. Marella drew shapes in the air before attempting to calm her. She pointed at one of them, explaining to her that she's expecting a boy, and not just any ordinary boy, one destined for greatness. But it helped little. Darada couldn't be calm. She demanded Marella cut him out of her. that no one can force her to raise such a bastard child. This is when Morella said to her that she has no choice, for her son not only has the blood of a dragon coursing through his veins, he also has the soul of Malachi deep inside him. She explained to her that his soul must be getting stronger as the convocation draws near. Darada was still in disbelief. She couldn't accept the fact that the alchemist Malachi, the one cursed by the Guardians and founder of their people, could be reborn in her son. They both found this to be overwhelming. It was hard to believe, but all the signs pointed towards it. Rurim must have known that their pure-blooded connection would be the prerequisite. Darada decided to run away the very same night, despite Morella trying to talk her out of it. She even refused to see her father, claiming how he wouldn't listen to a word she has to say. She knew she couldn't prevent his son from achieving his destiny, but she could run away to a place where the walls aren't filled with the voices of their ancestors and protect him this way. Morella shook her head, knowing that Darada might be making a grave mistake. She started begging her to reconsider, to at least wait a few more days. Perhaps they would come up with a solution. But Darada's mind was set on this. After a short conversation, they said their goodbyes and Darada descended into the stables where her trusty stallion, named Golden Arrow, was waiting for her. It was hard for her to leave. She still had doubts in her mind about what she's about to do, but deep inside, she felt that it was the right choice. Snooper accompanied her to a hidden path only few know of, leading to the back of the keep. She walked across the small bridge, and before she knew it, she was outside the walls. Golden Arrow had his head pointed forward as he started walking, but Darada was still looking back, all the way until the keep was nothing more than a silhouette. Then, her view shifted forward. And that's the prologue of Book 1. I intend to do this for all the chapters of the 3 books, so if you enjoy this content, let me know by liking and sharing it. I appreciate it a lot. You can also subscribe in order not to miss any future parts or videos. If you'd like to discuss the prologue in more depth or even ask me about some more insight, you can always do that on the official SpellForce Discord channel, the link to which will be in the description below. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.